Leaders are very important, of course. They drive change, they're central to drive D&I as well. But should we always wait for leaders?
I think we touched on leaders in the panel before, or that was certainly a theme, and certainly would reiterate the power of leaders, the influence of leaders. And leaders, I often say, have an outsized impact in terms of, kind of being culture carriers. And but I also want to reiterate some of the comments from the panel this morning, which is around that personal why. So again, work with a lot of leaders and say, why does this matter to you? And I just want to give, just one illustration of this point, which is again with a law firm, and it was a small meeting in a law firm, and they were meeting with a mix of clients, and something happened in that meeting that potentially caused a little bit of offense to one of the people who worked for this law firm. Mm-hmm. And so the partner, who was female, went after the meeting to their colleague, who was quite junior, and said, how did you feel about that? And the associate was like, oh, it was fine, this always happens, so to speak. And then the partner was like, well, you weren't offended, so I don't need to call anything out. And we were talking, so I was talking with this lady, and I was like, no, why does this matter to you? This is the kind of business that you're building and you own. Mm-hmm. If it offended you, you speak out, you tell the client, that's not appropriate to me, rather than, what, there was someone else that it probably should have influenced, but it didn't influence them, they weren't offended. Because again, like someone said in the conversations earlier today, we're just sick and it just happens all the time. I don't have any more energy, right? So if you have the energy and the power as a leader, I would say do stuff. However, it doesn't just stop with leaders, of course. So when we think about culture change, again, Mandri and I do a lot of work around the idea of the inclusion ecosystem. Everybody has a role to play. And I want to give just a couple of short examples, again, law firm specific. In one example, I'm going to this organization and I'm about to do a presentation. And I go and I sign. It was, kind of pre-pandemic, there wasn't that much tech. And on a bigger part, I was about to sign in at reception, and the lady at reception said, she had the pen, so she said, just spell your name for me. And for people, look at the presentation, you see my last name. My last name has 10 letters in it. So she was signing, and so I started spelling my last name, A-T-E, at about W, she ran out of room. And she said, oh, it doesn't matter, go on. Like she literally said, I've run out of room to write your surname, so just move on. Now, if I was maybe 10 years younger, 15 years younger, I'm just about to go into a proposal and a pitch, I'm like that would have just crushed me. Mm-hmm. One more example. This is not in a law firm, this was in the BBC reception, and it's not to do with the BBC. I was sitting down, doing some work between meetings, and there was a group of young people who came, and there was lots of noise, and it emerged that they were here for like internships or something, or interviews for internships. I was just doing my thing in the reception, and then a young black girl comes up to me and she says, excuse me. I'm like, yeah, you okay? She had this beautiful afro. She said, is my hair okay? I have an interview. My friend said my hair is unprofessional. I was like, girl, you're the most fabulous, I'm so sorry, Maria. You're the most fabulous, beautiful, empowered girl. Go for that interview. Again, when she was maybe 14, she's coming in with this assumption that her hair is inappropriate for this interview. And that the reason I tell these stories is to reiterate that we all have a role to play to the degree that we make it possible to have conversations that pay attention to the fact that different people have different experiences. And to go back to that idea of the meritocracy myth, it is a myth. right? Because other people are just rolling up for their interviews and their pitches, and they know that they've got it because the whole world tells them that they've got it. And other people are like, oh gosh, yeah, I forget your name, that doesn't matter. Or your hair, yeah, that's completely appropriate, even before you've entered that space. So yes, leaders are important, but so is everybody else. And I just want to encourage us to continue to think about taking that ownership, because absolutely, when we all do it, we unpack the potential and the talent in the world, in our societies, and it's better for all of us. And just the last thing I wanted to say, to go back to some of the things Robert was saying this morning, there's extensive evidence that inclusion works for all of us. Absolutely. There's work done by Professor Michael Kimmel, who does a lot of work on gender, and he has excellent evidence that when men work for gender equitable societies and organizations, they live longer, they're happier, they're healthier, their children are happier. Like, it works for you too.